to let you know that I made a request for the curb to be cut at the intersection, the northeast side of the intersection at 4th Street Southeast and 7th Avenue Southeast. And this is an important block because it's one block from St. Otto's Care Center. A lot of those people have mobility scooters that they go out walking with an aid. It's one block from our clinic and hospital. It's in the block directly north of one of the largest senior housing complexes in this city. And I made that request in 2012 and that curb cut still hasn't been done. How do I know that? How did I discover that? Because I was out on my mobility scooter and couldn't get up on the sidewalk until I drove down on the street about a fourth of the block or something like that. You have to drive down in the public right of way to get up there. And that shouldn't be. Okay, so I also want to mention that all the public rights of way, the handicapped accessible parking downtown and all over the city, including at Maple Island Park, are all in the rights of way. Now, I don't know about the two that are down at Maple Island Park, if that's right of way or not. If that's a road down there, I imagine it is, and I imagine those spots are in the public right of way. Last week, I discovered that neither of the two handicapped parking spaces at our mainly used park in this town were heaped full of snow. The city crews piled them high, and some of you know, because you were in on the emails that I sent. That's a disgrace that our city crews would be so callous as to not keep those two handicapped accessible places open for the disabled. There must have been 6 to 8 parking spaces for people who weren't handicapped that were all plowed. And all the trails down there were plowed. But the two handicapped accessible spots, you couldn't get to them. So if there was an event down there in the wintertime, or if there was a group down there and they were taking up all the spaces, no one with a handicap sticker like I have would have been able to park in those two spots. Now, I reported that last week. When I drove by here tonight, they are plowed. Thank you, city, for doing that finally. That's a good thing. But it's troubling that this city doesn't have this together. In 1993, every city in this country, small and large, was required to have not only a self-evaluation for the ADA, but a transition plan. And not just for the public rights of way. You guys are 17 years overdue. This transition plan and self-evaluation covers everything. City programs, city services, buildings, all of it. Why in the living hell has it taken 17 years to get, and why is it tonight that this is just for the public right of way? Why isn't this for everything? How much longer will disabled people in this area have to wait for this transition plan and self-evaluation for city programs and services and buildings to be included? I'm astounded. I am just baffled. 2/3 of our parks in this town don't have bathrooms. Not just for that are disability friendly. We don't have any bathrooms at all. In 2/3 of our parks, we have 18 parks in the city that are city owned. Only 6 of them have bathrooms, and some of those are porta potties. I am the one that asked for porta potties to be positioned down at Maple Island Park because our city crews were locking the bathrooms at 6 o'clock at night in the summertime when that park is open till 10. Okay? Well, where are the people supposed to go to the bathroom between 6 and 10 at night? Finally, a porta potty was put down there, but some of the other fairly well-used parks in town, including the one by the library, no bathroom there. The one over behind the St. Mary's Catholic Church on the east side, no bathroom, none. And I bet you anything, I haven't driven around, but I'm going to bet that there are not handicapped accessible parking spaces at every city park we have either. That should be a priority because our parks are important. This city, is in the process of trying to encourage people to come here. We want to have that community recreation center, and yet we don't have it together when it comes to making sure that everyone is included, especially our disabled people. Okay, so that's enough on that. Now, sorry for my people that are watching. I'm going to have to set my phone down here or put like this just for a little bit while I talk. Okay, as far as this transition plan, first of all, I'd like to know what is the main reason for this coming up now? And who asked for this transition plan?
I think we're here, Rob, tonight for public input. If you want to give us some input.
I am giving input. I'm giving plenty input. And this is, excuse me, this is, you know what? Free speech is to be at its zenith at City Hall. This is a public input meeting. There isn't one other person here to give you any input. And guess what? I'm disabled.
So give us some input.
That's why this chair is here for me.
Not the riot act on why we're doing it now.
I'm not giving you a riot act. Not in any way, shape, or form.
So what kind of public input do you have for us tonight?
I've been giving it all along. I would like to find out, doesn't have to be now during my time to talk, but I would like to find out whose idea was this to implement this transition plan now and why. If I had to guess, it has something to do with the community recreation center that is sort of in the pipeline, because that is going to have to be ADA accessible. It's a new park. By the way, your brand new park over here in the public right-of-way, the dog park, does not have any disabled parking. Not one handicapped accessible spot. That's in the public right-of-way. That is to do with this meeting. Why not? The ADA requires that every new park, every new building in a city has to be handicapped accessible. So why isn't it? Okay, the meeting, the notice that was in the paper states only that this is the review of the draft of the City of Little Falls Americans with Disability ADA Transition Plan. Nowhere in this ad does it say that this is just for the public right-of-way. Should have been. And the transition plan should have been on the city website. Before this ad even came in the paper, should have been on the city website. For people who are disabled and can't get out. Was not done. The areas that you're talking about doing, I have a question about why the 18th Street that isn't even fully done yet, that's going to be all the way from out there by the old Walmart and wrap around or wherever it comes into out by the fairground, not the fairgrounds, but the Oakland Cemetery and all that. Why is that listed before some of our existing city streets? I don't understand that. That doesn't seem like that should be a priority to me.
Well, it's new construction, so that's why it would be addressed at that time when it's be new construction if it comes in. Otherwise, we'd be non-compliant right out of the chute, and that's what you're just honest about why we do something. The dog park, for instance, and we don't have nothing there. That's 18th Street would be addressed at the same time. That's why it's on the priority list.
When the
So
dog,
we wouldn't be going back 2 weeks or 2 years later.
well, that's what you're going to have to do with $10 million worth of
Yeah,
public
if we had $10
right-of-way.
million, and we would still be short to upgrade the city for what it needs to be
Right.
ADA compliant.
But when, according to law, when the new park, the dog park went in, was when the handicapped accessible spaces which should have been put in, as well as the curb cuts, so that people in a wheelchair could actually get up and go into the dog park with their dog.
18th Street would be the same way. When we construct a new road, it has to be ADA compliant.
Right.
Correct?
Right. But these priorities that are listed, many of them are already existing. They're not new roads. Majority of them are.
So with the dog park over there, we got the fence up and the curb cut and the sidewalk going to the dog park in just before the snow flies or flew last fall, and so we weren't able to get anything done on the parking stalls before winter time. So that is something that we're looking at now, but it wasn't something we had time to do last fall, unfortunately, because Mother Nature ran out on us.
It's painting a strip on the pavement and putting a signpost in.
It's got to be the right
And there was enough time. There were people using that park long before there was even a handicap accessible spot
It
there.
wasn't open before then, though. I mean, they were using it, but it technically wasn't open before.
Yeah, it was open. I was there. I watched. I sat there many times.
We move on here.
Okay, so I have a couple other things. Effective communication, and this is from this transition plan, it says, the City of Little Falls will generally, upon request, provide appropriate aids and services leading to effective communication for qualified persons with disabilities so they can participate equally in the city's programs, services, activities, including qualified sign language interpreters, documents in Braille, and other ways of making information and communications accessible to people who have speech, hearing, or vision impairments. I also want to point out something from the League of Minnesota Cities that's already a couple of years old now. It says here, for public entities receiving federal funding, Section 504 of the Federal Rehabilitation Act of 1973 contains similar obligations. So if this only applies to the right-of-way, how does this effective communication come into place? Does that mean people who are contacting you, Greg, or John Rademacher, or someone else from the city, that there's like a grievance project thing with this, or what?
So it depends on the area, but either John or myself would be one of the two contacts. If it pertains to the right-of-way, I will be handling that aspect of it. If it's anything outside of the right-of-way, then John will be handling that. John obviously is more well-versed in all of it, but those are kind of the two areas that we've got set up, is the right-of-way and the non-right-of-way stuff.
Okay, and I think maybe that's all I have in there. But I also want to mention to this commission, because it involves the public right-of-way. When this city hosts the big craft show in the fall, every handicapped accessible parking space all over this town in the past has been covered over and made inaccessible. That violates the law. That can't happen. So remember, the two council people that are seated here in front of me, remember that when you go to authorize the permit for that festival. Because if you authorize it to cover up those handicapped accessible spots, you will be in violation of the ADA. And anybody like myself or anybody else wants to make a complaint, that puts the city in legal jeopardy. And for the two city council people here, the Dam Festival permit that was just approved unanimously by the city on Monday night of last week, is in violation of the ADA. You can't close off a road for an event. And you sure can't make the two handicapped accessible parking spots in the public right-of-way not available during an event that you gave the permit for. Okay, and with that, I'm finished.
With that.
I know
And as far as the arts and crafts fair, they have handicap parking lots when they take the parking spots away. Correct, Greg? On First and
I don't know.
Second? Yeah, right on the corner north of White's, that whole parking lot becomes a handicap parking lot for the access, yeah.
you can't close off handicapped accessible spots for anything other than road repair. It's not legal. Do some checking with your attorney. I know. It's in the ADA. Read it, study it. I have. That's what you're tasked with.
You know, Robin, I appreciate you voicing your opinion, but I also am considered disabled and a part of a protected group, and I'd appreciate it if you don't lump me in with what you got going on here. Because some of us understand the constraints of time and money on a city. If this was a perfect world and we had unlimited funds, everything would be a utopia and we'd have nothing to bitch and whine about. But it's not.
There's laws.
So, there
we're
is
talking
laws.
about the
Who's
city
gonna pay
obeying
for it,
the law.
Robin?
The city has to.
How are you going to pay
It
for
doesn't make any difference whether or not the city
The
wants
value
to
of
or
money
you
is only
object to
what
it or
you
anything
make.
else. The ADA has to be followed. It's law.
That's fine.
And if the laws aren't followed, any disabled person whose rights are violated can indeed sue. That puts the city at financial jeopardy. I'm telling you ahead of time, that's
And
not
we're
wise
telling
to
you
do
we
that.
have a plan to implement this.
No, it's only for the public right-of-way. The city has no self-evaluation, no transition plan for services, programs, buildings, or anything else. That's just foolish, folks.
Is that true, Greg?
I don't know.
Of course it's true.
It's,
I asked John Rademacher. He said, there's nothing. I asked Lori Casella, former city administrator, co-city administrator. There isn't anything on file. None.
See, what this meeting is about, Robin, is for
for you to give the input. It's something now that should be looked at.
Correct.
Right.
I've tried to explain that to her twice already, but she don't wanna listen, so she's here to
I'm
make a
listening.
statement, try to make a point.
I'm
learn law,
listening and I'm
and
informing
we love
you of where there are gaps, big gaps, and why this needs to get fixed.
And we're asking the public, right, to give us more input on this, ADA.
True.
Okay, good. Thanks for bringing that to our attention.
And there is a letter that was sent to the city that is going to be read, correct?
Did you receive a letter? I didn't receive one. When did you send it?
I didn't send a letter.
I haven't seen one yet.
Laura Wright sent a letter.
I can go check, but I haven't
She
seen
sent
Did
it
you send
to,
it to the record?
It's not a public hearing.
she
it's
sent
public
it to
input meeting,
John
so-
Rademacher.
John-
and-
I haven't seen
City Council was copied, and I don't know if you're on it or not. But I know she sent it to the city last week.
I haven't.
I have a
seen
copy of that here.
Well, that's something else you can take into consideration also. That's what the meeting's about.
Yeah.
Laura sent this, you need to take a look at it. and
Well, did you get it? You're on the council. She sent it to
I
the whole
did.
council.
I did not get a copy of
Oh,
that.
there
I
you
just
go.
checked my council computer today.
Well
Did
then,
you get a copy of it?
Oh, I didn't see it.
Okay.
But it's something we probably should get.
well, I'll be happy to let, you want to read it?
Are you sure that it's for us, if she didn't send it to me?
Yes, it's for this meeting.
Yeah, so this only went to Greg and John. That's what it's to on the front. Actually, you sent it, no, Laura sent it to Greg and John. For ADA purposes, making meetings accessible to the public, including persons with disabilities, is essential. Having a disability should not limit participation in government due to accessibility, nor should participation be discouraged. I've attended several council meetings, read my requests aloud during public comments more than 3 times to date. My formal requests have been ignored or denied. Since we're working on the ADA plan, I already have invested in the necessary equipment upgrades, have staffing and ability to comply with this request. Again, I ask that you please reconsider. This request does not create financial hardship or excessive burden. In the day and age of technology, we should use it to better people's lives, not making excuses to exclude them when we are fully capable of being diverse, inclusive, and accommodating ADA request. As a person with disability, I again ask you please reconsider my request, Laura Wright, or Laura Wright. So that was the request that she,
Was that the whole thing?
I'm not sure what this is on the bottom.
There were 2 parts to it. And Laura's
Well, the
watching
other
right
half, the
now.
letter to the editor, or what?
She's-
Okay.
That wasn't the letter to the editor.
That was-
Just a broadcast. Work session.
True.
Letter to
The other part that she sent in, because she assumed this was a public hearing, and at a public hearing,
It's
your
not a
own
public
rules
hearing,
state
it's
that
public
you get
input.
2 minutes, right,
2
but
minutes time to do.
But there's no rules for a public input meeting.
Which is
So
what-
she,
Right, which is why we let you have.
well, this
25
is
minutes time.
Laura now, and this isn't
Right.
me talking.
So if Laura's so concerned, my question is, where is Laura and why didn't she come to speak?
She's
to us?
watching on Facebook Live right now, and she's home with her children, and she's disabled. She couldn't come to the meeting tonight.
Just because you're disabled doesn't mean you can't come home.
She sent a letter in to be read.
Accessible.
And now this committee here is getting bucky about reading
No,
the
I'm just-
full.
I'm a special
her
ed teacher, so
hearing.
guess what? All of this is very important to me. This is my
Well-
livelihood and I love it.
well, good.
But here's my question, like he said, just because I don't know her situation, but you're talking about how important it is that she got this letter to us, and we're saying nobody here got it.
The city
You're saying that
administrator
way.
got it.
Okay? Did she
He's
say
in charge
please
of
pass
this
it on?
city.
Was that in the letter?
What's that?
Please pass it on to everybody so that we're all on the same page, or have Robin give it to us.
It
That's all.
It's
I'm saying.
addressed to
So, if-
Mayor
if-
Zilka and a city council. There's 2 city council people right in front of me.
If the
So the
administrator
council
has
get it in
it,
their packet
we
next
will,
week.
I will get the letter from John and we will include it in the memo or the information that we have on the public info.
Right, but she wanted it read at this meeting. The other part that she writes is, Dear Mayor Zilka, I would like to formally and officially request in writing that the city council meetings and all future work sessions related to city council meetings be audio really recorded and made available for public viewing.
It's
That's a request of Mayor Zilka, not a request of the planning commission.
And the internet. Additionally, if captioning or full transcript is available, please also include with each video upload to help ensure they are accessible to all viewers. Also, as a suggestion, a link, email, or telephone number for the City of Little Falls could be possibly included with video uploads for persons needing to request other accommodations. As a former former employee of the state of Minnesota, having advocated for ease for accessibility for persons for disabilities as well as for veterans, I'm hopeful that you will please consider these items and implement in your continued effort for the benefit of all residents. Kindest regards, Laura Wright.
Thanks, Robin. And then also, if you let Laura know that it'd be great if she'd address it to the planning commission if that's what she wants to get it, not the mayor's.
There are dozens
And then it's
of
the
people
planning
in this
commission.
city that did not show up for this meeting who have no voice other than Laura and I tonight.
Perfect.
And
Thank
I am
you guys for your voices.
astounded of your callous disregard again for the one person who is disabled that decided to come, even though I am in the early stages of pneumonia right now.
And I respect what you're doing, Robin. That's all I want to say. This is an input. Thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Because I am sure these things will be addressed from this point on, because they are important. It's like Kara was saying, as teachers, we understand that there are a lot of legal ramifications if you don't meet the disability laws. So we will consider it. And this is just a informative thing. It isn't like this is a cut and dry draft we have here, because part of this here, there's even a grievance procedure under the Americans with Disability Act that's added on to this. And it's like, as a planning commission, we understand this isn't perfect, and this is the beginning of what we're going to do before we do have a final draft that will be presented on a regular public hearing, but that's down the road. It's not like we're being negligent. We're at the point of trying to understand from the public, which is you, Laura,
And a lot of other people.
what it is we need in this, and you're making us more aware. That's great. That's what we wanted this meeting for. So it shouldn't be us against you or you against us. We should look at the betterment for what the community needs. And that's what we're going to try to do here.
That's exactly right. That's why I came tonight.
Thank you.
Anything else from staff?
That's all I got.
Next meeting, March 9th. You need action on this at all? Just gathering input. That, take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by
For
Here.
SCH.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
SCH link. Hey, let's meet the new guy.
Yeah.
You should introduce yourself to everyone here, and they should introduce themselves, so you know who you're dealing with. You know it's me already.
Okay, we want history. So I'm Jim Bertram. Currently, my background is I'm a nursing home administrator, and grew up in Sobieski, graduated Little Falls High School many years ago. I was administrator of the Pierce Villa for about 20 years, and then I've gotten into ownership. My wife and I own assisted living and nursing homes around the state of Minnesota. We used to own St. Otto's.
Well, there you go. You can help us with the EDA.
Oh yeah, I know all about it.
Perfect.
That's good.
That is good.
Yeah,
Valuable.
Welcome, Jim.
deal with it every day.
Well, I don't know if you can guess my name from the list of boys here, but I think,
SC.
SC.
Okay. Anybody else?
Have we met?
Yeah,
James.
Jim Fleischer. Nice to meet you.
The ADA is all online as well. The part that I gave you and,
So why
all
don't you take
parts
this
of it.
back and I can look at it online when I need it.
okay,
In case you wanted to show anybody else, thanks for showing us that.
yep.